But now you're done fooling around with gnomes, let's check in with another fool and his fortune. Fool's Fortune is one of the classiest card games to come along in a while, which carries through to the artwork, the game terminology, and its various levels of game complexity. A Fool's Fortune is a set collection game in the spirit of Rummy, but borrows some elements from other card games like Magic the Gathering. You're trying to complete 3 sets of 5 cards. There are 2 kinds of cards in the deck: the fortune cards and the character cards. The fortune cards displays realms by color, and the realm's name is on the bottom of the card. There are also 5 different resources on the cards, indicated by gold symbols in the corners. The fortune cards can be aligned in 2 different ways: by realm with 1 of each resource, or by resource with 1 of each realm. Then there are the character cards. The easiest play rules is Act 1, and in this one all the character cards have the same 2 abilities. Before we go any further, let's set the stage. The play area is divided into several sections. In the middle there's the Fate, the deck of cards you're drawing from, the Road, where the character cards are discarded to, or the Fair, where the fortune cards are discarded to. You have the Crew area, which are your character cards you have in play. The Cache is where you build your sets of cards, and below that is your Camp. And now the stage is set and it's time to begin to play. There are 3 phases in the game, named after the times of day. The beginning phase is of course called the morning phase, and in the morning phase you draw cards to restore your hand up to 3. You ready any previously engaged character cards by rotating them upright. And finally, before moving on to the afternoon phase, you draw 1 additional card from the Fate deck, which is called your allowance. As an optional rule, you may consider having a morning cup of coffee. The afternoon, that's where the action happens. You can recruit a character into your crew from your hand. You have to pay their fee, which is simply placing 2 aligned fortune cards under them. Next, you can use your character's abilities to fetch fortunes from the fair. Or you could cut the character from the crew, which sends their fees to the camp, making them available for use. Then you can add to or create new sets. Sets are created from any combination of cards from your hand or your camp, but they must be 3 aligned cards. Finally, before moving into the night phase, you can rearrange your cards from your hand or your camp to expand on the cards in your cache or on your crew. In the night phase, it's time to clean up and pay your dues. You pay your dues by discarding a card from your hand or from your camp, and you have to discard any fortune sets that are under 3 cards and any fortune cards in your camp. The player that has 3 closed sets of 5 and has 1 ready character and pays their final dues is the winner. That's the basic game, or Act 1, the Pages game. It may sound simple, but you really have to pay attention to what your opponents are doing in this game. In Act 2, the Barons game, adds more complexity by introducing new abilities for the character cards. Characters can now kick back. What the kickback ability does, when you engage 1 of your characters, you can send 1 of your fees to the camp, but if they're not paid back, you'll have to discard that character. Another ability is the ability to barter. When your character barters, they are engaged. And they can take a fortune from 1 of their rivals' still open sets, as long as they can repay it with another fortune that aligns with it. Your opponent may not like that, so he can engage 1 of his characters to put a stop to that. In Act 2, a couple other unique character abilities are Savvy and Skilled. The Savvy characters, when engaged, they can have kind of a super fetch or super barter ability. The Savvy version of these can't be blocked. Unless your opponent also has a Savvy character they can engage to block. And finally, there are Charmed abilities. The Charmed Fate ability allows the character to draw 1 card from the Fate deck. The other ability is a Charmed Bargain, which allows them to draw 1 card from the Fate deck, but they have to pay an extra card for the dues later on. The final abilities in Act 2 is the ability to flash a character from your hand or crew. And yes, this is perfectly fine to do even if you're playing in a public place. Think of flash as like one-time use ability. The universal abilities that all characters could do are to use the barter ability or to refuse a barter. Then finally there's the Act 3 of the game, the Master's game, where the talents of the skilled characters come into full play, which is found in the text box of the character cards. Here, to some extent, is where the game takes some resemblance to various collectible card games. The beauty of this game is not just in its looks. This game can almost literally please all kinds of players. You can play as a casual game with your grandma. You can move up to Act 2 to add a little more complexity, or you can ramp it up to Act 3 for your hardcore gamer friends. Few games have been able to target such a wide variety of gamers. And now we're done. We've been watching the Gamers Grind Show. Be sure to like us on Facebook, visit our website, and of course come on down and play some games off the wall.